What is up, everyone? We are back again with the top 5 new brews, deck number 2 for Bloomburrow, and this one is Izzet Valiant. This deck is kind of like mono red meets prowess type deck. You got a little bit of both worlds going on. We are also abusing the Prof Eidetic Memory, one of the cards that was pretty good in the last set. Some people were building some Demir or Izzet decks based around that, and having some pretty good success, at least in tournaments and on the ladder. So we're trying to take what's left of mono red, add in some of the new good Valiant cards, and make something happen here. So let's take a look. All right, so start off with our creatures. We've got some good one-drop creatures here. Monastery Swift Spear, of course, very, very solid in mono red and in aggro decks in general. And we still got it even after rotation. Heartfire Hero, another really good pickup in the one-drop slot. It's got Valiant that whenever it becomes the target of a spell or ability, the first time each turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. And when it dies, you deal damage equal to its power to target opponent. So, as long as it's not removed immediately, you're probably going to get this up to 2/2, 3/3 fairly quickly. And then if the opponent does remove it or trades, then you'll deal a lot of damage to their face. So you're pretty happy with that as your other one drop. We've got some pretty decent 2 drops as well. A new one coming into the fray, Ember Heart Challenger. This is a 2 mana 2/2 with haste and prowess. And whenever it becomes the target of a spell or ability, you exile the top card of your library. And until end of turn, you get to play that card. So it's a good way to get your land drops. A good way to cast some cheap spells. You probably play this on turn 2. Turn 3, you cast like a one mana spell or something like that, and you trigger this. You get to look at the top card. You try to find your land, or maybe get something else that you can cast that turn. And even better later in the game, as you start to run out of gas. So that one's pretty solid. Of course, no red deck is complete without Slick Shot Show Off. Very solid 2-drop flying haster that gets bigger quickly, +2/+0 each time you cast a non-creature spell. And the plot part of it, very important. It lets you kind of combo off. You plot this on turn 2, and then turn 3 or 4, you just kind of go to town and deal like 10 damage in one turn. So this card, proven itself, very reputable, very solid. And yeah, definitely has to go in here. And then the last creature we got, Steam Core Scholar. And this is mostly because as I mentioned, we've got the Prof's Eidetic Memory in the deck. So this is going to work out great with that, drawing us some cards, giving us selection, get rid of our lands in the late game, and also pumping our creatures pretty big. Not to mention that it's a flyer with Vigilance for 3 mana, so definitely no slouch there either. But we're only running 3 of them because this deck is fast, quick, and we don't really want too many big creatures. I think, after we play with it for a while, we'll see what things get cut. Possibly, if you want to go full mono red, you'll cut some of the blue cards, and you'll cut the Steam Core Scholar, and we'll see maybe the Slick sequence. But we'll have to play around with it first. But I did like that the Prof's Eidetic Memory works out so well with the Valiant creatures, and we're going to talk about that more in just a sec. But so that's why the blue include is here. All right, so new instance that we got in this deck, Might of the Meek, very solid 1-drop, 1 mana instant. It draws a card, so it works with our Prof. It also targets your creature, and if the creature's a mouse, it gets +1/+0. And it also gives your creatures trample, which is great for your prowess stuff, which is getting bigger, and the opponent won't be able to block it. We also happen to have 2 mice in the deck, and so most, 50% of the time at least, we're going to get that +1 boost to our creature as well. So the ideal situation, you get like your Heartfire Hero on turn 1, turn 2, maybe you play the Ember Heart Challenger, or you plot your Flick Shot Show Off, and then turn 3, you target your Heartfire Hero. It becomes now a 3/2. you draw a card, it gains trample. You know, maybe you get your land for turn, you drop down your Prof's Addictive Memory, which is going to pump all your creatures again. So that's kind of like what you're shooting for with this Might of the Meek card. Don't just fire it off immediately. You know, you want to wait till you can kind of combo it with some of your other pieces. And then the other new card we got is Rabid Gnaw. This is a pretty sick removal card that we haven't read. And I don't know if we've ever seen this before. It might be the first time. But we've got a bite type effect, which is usually in green. We've got it strictly in red. That's pretty unusual. I think we've probably seen that in Gruul colors before, maybe like once. So to have it just in red is pretty strange. But, you know, I'll take it, and it works very well with our mice creatures. So I'm not complaining too much. So yeah, it targets your creature. It gets +1/+0, and then you deal damage equal to the creature's power to the opponent's creature. So it gives you the Valiant trigger. It lets you fight something and remove it, and it buffs your creature's power a little bit. So yeah, you're pretty happy with all sides of this card, and you might even use it if the opponent doesn't have a creature. Uh, yeah, who knows? But at least it triggers your Valiant, and it gives you a pump spell. And then we have a Slick sequence in here. This is the other one we're trying in blue, the other main blue card. This is blue and a red, instant, deals 2 damage to any target. So it can go face if you want. It can kill a creature. And then if you cast another spell earlier, you draw a card. So the drawing also, again, works with the Prof Didactic Memory, which wants us to draw cards. And so typically you would save this for turn 3 or turn 4. You drop down one of your creatures, and then you drop this as your second spell, and you get the damage and the card draw. And then finally, or the final 2 cards, we got Demonic Ruckus. This is another really good plot card for 1 mana, 1 red mana. You get to plot it, and then the next turn you cast it, put +1/+1 menace and trample on your creature. It targets your creature for your Valiant trigger, and when it goes to the graveyard, it draws a card. So it checks all the boxes yet again: Valiant, card draw, and killing the opponent. And then finally, the Prof Eidetic Memory. We've been talking about it already, but in case you don't know, it's a 2 mana legendary enchantment. It draws you a card. There's no maximum hand size, and then if at the beginning of combat in your turn, if you've drawn at least 1 other card, then you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So your targeting creature that triggers your Valiant. It also buffs your creatures with the +1/+1 counters. So all in all, pretty solid, especially with the other card draw we have in here, like Might of the Meek. So you would probably be pretty happy to drop that down. Maybe turn 3 after you've already plotted Slick So off or something like that, or your Emberheart Challenger, and you get the Valiant trigger right away, or pump up something. So that's kind of what I'm thinking with that, but we'll have to see how it plays out. At least turn 3, you can play that and probably play your Might of the Meek at the same time. All right. The last part, the lands, we did lose some of the multicolored lands for Izzet, but we got most of the early game ones. So we got Shivan Reef, Firebelf Canal, Restless Spire, and since it's mainly a rec deck, just mostly have mountains, but also threw in a couple of Mirexes in there, which can be good in the late game and also can fix your blue colors in a pinch. So yeah, that's the deck. And even though, you know, some people are saying we lost a lot in mono red, I'm not a big mono red player, but I think there's still pretty good potential here. You know, Monastery Swiftspirit and Heartfire Hero are both very good 1-drops. And so I don't think it's not all out of the mono red's playbook. You still got quite a few things to go with. And people are probably sleeping on Rabid Gnaw, in my opinion. Like, yeah, you lost some removal in terms of damage, but if your prowess creatures are getting bigger whenever you cast spells, you know, it's going to pump up pretty quickly and you're going to deal enough damage. All right, let me know if I missed anything that would fit perfectly in this deck, and let me know what you think in the comments. Until next time, see ya and have a blessed day.